You are now listening to the Walk by Faith podcast. I'm your host, Jasmine Stith, aka The Pretty Plug. I'm on a mission to tell the lost story that combines faith in God and success here on this earth. The world often separates faith and entrepreneurship as if it was mutually exclusive. But I assure you it's not. I interview the following types of people: entrepreneurs, business women, and businessmen climbing the corporate ladder, founders of nonprofit organizations, college students following their passions, and also artists on the rise. They are movers and shakers in this generation, and I intend to plug you in week after week with content that inspires and educates you to be all that you are called to be. Thank you for tuning in, and now for this week's episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 40th episode on the Walk by Faith show. By now, everyone has had a beautiful Christmas, and I'm praying that you definitely celebrated it with the ones that you love, that you had great food, and you shared memories, right? Because that's most important. We can be fighting for so many things in this life to where we just don't enjoy the simple things, which is just gathering around and loving one another. So again, I pray that you all had an awesome Christmas. Now, on the flip side of that, one of the biggest things people do around Christmas time is shop until they drop. They get gifts, they overspend, or maybe you're one of the smart ones where you actually budget before you go and spend on your Christmas holiday gifts. But I want everybody to know the true meaning of Christmas was always to recognize the Savior that was born, Jesus Christ specifically. Now, one Christmas gift I would love to give my family in the future is financial freedom and a way to make extra income that has nothing to do with me but to themselves, right? So if they want to go get it, they can. But I also want to be able to provide anything that my family needs, retire my mom and my dad. So that's like a Christmas gift that I would give to them one day, just not right now, okay? I need y'all to still be supporting the podcast because I haven't made it there yet, okay? But hopefully you didn't shop until you dropped. But even if you did, you can recover from it. And if you haven't, then you don't have to recover from it at all. So again, I'm praying that y'all had an awesome Christmas. I'm amped because today I got somebody on the show that knows a little bit about money. I want to give you all a little bit of background. I have a member of the Walk by Faith family that I was connected to when I was in college. She runs a holistic financial planning practice. She specializes in helping her clients with saving, investment, and tax-efficient strategies that will evolve over time. We want to create generational wealth by putting together a sound financial plan that can withstand the test of time. And so the woman of the hour for today is none other than Miss Samantha Torres. Samantha, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me on here today.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So you know a little bit about money, and you know that people just came off of their holiday high. They went to Walmart, they got credit cards, they went into their savings. They forgot that the first of the year was coming. They got bills. You know, it's funny how December 25th happens and then January 1st happens. So I just want to know 3 things that people are doing wrong with their finances from what you can see.
I would say the top 3 things is, number 1 is not having a clear plan or clear goals of what it is they want to accomplish. Number 2, I would say budgeting. Okay. And there's different methods to budgeting. So it's like figuring out one that works for you. And then lastly is I would say that we're just all doing our best with the information that we currently know. So how do we continue to educate ourselves so we can make more conscious decisions in 2019?
Yeah, I believe that. I feel like it's time to start changing the way we think about money. And I think that's often a lot of misconceptions about money. But before we get into that, because I know Samantha is going to hit us with all of the jewels and the knowledge that we need, I want to just first, Samantha, tell us who you are. I know I talked about what you do, but I need to know a little bit more of, why you on the show and just how your life has transitioned to talking about faith and then finances and you coming to America and any challenges that you have had to face just getting here and just different components that have made you who you are.
Yeah, so I moved to the US when I was 7. So my family and I immigrated from Peru. And like many immigrant families, we didn't come to the US knowing too much about the American system or English. So I was the only Spanish speaking student aside from my brother, going through elementary school. So growing up was a little bit challenging, but I think I assimilated pretty well. I've moved a lot in my life. So when I moved from Peru, we moved to the East Coast and then to LA and then LA to Orange County. And that's where I had a lot of my high school years. And so I always not one place ever really felt like home. I was always, moving around. I never really got a chance to set roots anywhere. And so over time, that's impacted the way I connect with people. So as I got older, the one thing I've always known I wanted to do was help people. I truly believe I have a servant's heart and a leader's vision, right? It's like, how do we lead other people to do good? So after I moved to San Diego to go to San Diego State, I had an opportunity to do an internship at a financial service company. And I actually excelled a lot in this internship, found out that I was really, really good at getting people to save money. So I decided to take the internship and run with it till I graduated school. Now around that time, as we were approaching graduation, aside from like the pressure of what you're going to do with your life after you graduate, I was going through a lot of personal problems, a lot of family stuff. My personal relationship was kind of falling apart. And so I felt really, really lost, which I'm sure everyone else has at some point. So that's when I came to a crossroads and trying to figure out if this is really what I wanted to do start a financial planning business, right? Not a lot of people are in the mindset to start a business as soon as they graduate school. So I decided to take it head on, and it was a lot of trials and tribulations on how to build a book of business, build a market, how to market yourself, everything that comes with that. And so aside from that, just being completely confused and lost as to who I was, because I had lost someone in my life who was basically my rock. So in that transition, I decided to enroll in a yoga teacher training program because during my last semester of college, that was the only thing that I looked forward to every single Thursday, was to go do yoga at the Bay in San Diego. And it was through that program that I found my connection to God. So I think here in the Western world, we're very familiar with what we call the asana, so the poses, like yoga as like a physical activity. In more of the traditional sense, yoga is a way of life, is a way of being, essentially. So it's a time where we are connecting with ourselves, with our soul, and also with God. And I think that's what really, really shaped my later years, because I started to become a lot lighter. I started to unfold and peel back some of those layers of a lot of pain and hurt, and really figure out, okay, who am I? What am I here to do? And how am I going to do this? So it really did change my outlook of life. in a very unique way, because, growing up, my parents, they raised us Catholic, but a non-practicing Catholic. So I got baptized. I did my first communion. Didn't do my confirmation just because I wasn't really sure. There was really not much support. We're very my family, we believe in, in God, but it was never something that was part of our day to day. So through this practice, I learned how to pray, which was something that was new to me. When we were little, we'd only pray when we were scared. So praying even when good things are happening. I learned to meditate, right? So listening to the answers that, we ask for. Sometimes it's really hard to quiet the mind and quiet the noise and really sit with ourselves and be like, okay, where am I going next? What's my next step? So that was really, really powerful. And, allowing yourself to trust and believe that you're being guided through every experience, right? A lot of times when you're young, no one really tells you how hard it's going to be or everything that's going to happen, and all the ups and downs of life. Everything just, we get painted such a perfect picture that after college everything is great. And I think that was the realization, for me at least, that hey, this is real life, and this is what we're here to do. And for me, that was helping people truly realize like what their gifts are and what it is that they want out of life, and through their finances, how we're going to help them achieve that.
Okay. And I know you told me that you went to a trip out of the country, and it's almost like your practice found you.
Yes. Oh, man. So 6 months after doing planning for full time, I decided to take a month off and just go reconnect and just be away from everyone. So I went to Thailand. And it was an amazing trip. And in one of the cities, I was getting ready to take like a 13-hour train ride. I picked up a book, and I'm sure everyone's heard of Deepak Chopra, or one of his books that he wrote is Unconditional Life. And it was a very interesting title because I've heard of unconditional love, but never really unconditional life. And essentially the book dives into what the word disease means, right? So when we have a disease, it means your body is in dis-ease. It's in stress. It's under a lot of stress. So a lot of the ailments and illnesses and things that we experience have been manifested through other stressors in our lives. So it could be really anything. And then sometimes we don't really know what the root of the cause is until we take the time and really surrender to the experience, right? So sometimes we hear about those crazy stories of people recovering from cancer and some terminal illness. Is because they've truly done the work to connect and be like, okay, what is causing all of this stress? So to me, that was something that was profound, because a lot of the times when we have conversations with our clients, we talk about all the what ifs in lives, right? And as much as we don't want to play put ourselves into a situation of like the worst that could happen, it's, we do plan for the worst and hope for the best. So it's almost felt like it was my duty to make people aware that, hey, we all have stuff, right? We've all got family problems, stress at work, at home, relationships that could potentially trigger something and could put us in a situation where we're forced to take time off work to heal. And so if I could be the catalyst to make sure that finances was the one thing that people didn't have to worry about, right? If they knew that if they were not able to work for 6 months to a year, they would still have income coming in the door, then they could truly take the time to heal and better themselves. So it was a very interesting way to connect the two things. And for me, it was just like after reading this entire book, I was ready to go home and get back to work. And ever since, it's been amazing. And the last 2 years have been the most transformational of my life, both personally and professionally. So it's been a great ride.
Yeah, so I mean, we could just have girl talk. Like, what have been some of the highs that have happened in the last 2 years? Because I know we talked about there being a time of just confusion, loss. When you graduate, a lot of it happened to me. 6 months, I was like, man, I want to do all these things, but it's not happening fast enough. What's happening? And so it's just like you have to go through those seasons of, I guess, being lost so that you can be found.
Right.
If we were always found, like, what would be the point? Like, if you always knew every single thing that would happen, like, there would be no reason to have faith in anything. You just know it all. Like, you should just leave because you already know everything.
Right? You'd be enlightened.
Yeah, you'll be enlightened, right? So it's just like, what have been some of your highs? Because I know that's not something that me and you talked about. So, like, what have been some of the good things that have happened to you in these last 2 years? It's something to be joyful for.
Yeah. So I think the number one thing, and the thing I've been still celebrating a little bit this year, was I passed the CFP exam. So I'm now officially a certified financial planner. I found out about a week and a half ago, which is a huge accomplishment.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So less than 5% of all CFPs in the country are under the age of 30. So I can only imagine what the next 5 years are going to be like, and all the knowledge and expertise that we'll be able to grow into. And so that's, I think, like the biggest accomplishment for me, because it just showed all the discipline and all the hard work that went into studying for this exam. It's the highest credential that you can get in the financial services. So I'm very, very proud of that.
And so like, what is a CFP? Because maybe somebody listening to this podcast is like, whoa, I didn't even know I could be a financial planner. And then on top of that, I didn't know I could get a CFP. Like, what is that?
Yeah, so the CFP stands for Certified Financial Planner. And essentially, you know everything there is to know about money and all of the different disciplines that comes with it. So, for example, insurance planning, retirement, investments, taxes, estate planning, and any employee benefits, things of that nature that constitute or have to do with money. So if you could think of it as like everybody watches football. So if you could think of the CFP as like the quarterback, right? He's making sure that when we're calling the plays, that the wide receiver knows what to do, then the tight end knows what to do. And essentially, they're the ones calling the shots and making sure that the rest of your professional advisory board, so your CPA, your tax attorney, your estate planning attorney, they're all working together to best serve the client.
Okay. So, y'all, we got a CFP in the building. Okay, and she said she's under 30, so she's a millennial, and
Yes.
she's out here grinding. And I remember you told me, like, you have always been one of those friends. You're going head first. Like, you're staying not only in your lane, but you conquer everything that you put your mind to. Like, how did you develop that discipline just to keep going and keep striving no matter what has come? Because I know you even spoke about, like, heartbreak. Like, that, to be honest, that's fuel for fire.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime I've ever had heartbreak, like, don't leave your girl, because listen, you that really just gives me all the ammunition I need to keep going, bossing up. So it's just like, for you, like, you've overcome that heartbreak, but at the same time, like, you continuously dominated anything you put your mind to. So how did you develop that stamina to keep going even when things did get rough?
Honestly, a lot of it has to do with, like you said, blind faith. Like, understanding what your purpose is. What is it that you want out of life? And I think sometimes not too many people take, the problem that I had with school was, like, everybody asks you, okay, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? What do you want to do? Not many people take the time to ask you, okay, who do you want to be? Like, what do you want to be remembered as? What do you want your legacy to be? And I think those are very important questions that we should be asking ourselves. And so having that clear vision of, what I want to, who's the person that I want to become, and knowing that you're making those daily decisions every single day to get you a little bit closer. And sometimes you do take 2 steps back, but knowing that it's to only catapult you 3 steps forward, right? So it's sometimes a little rocky, going back to the, that emotional roller coaster, but knowing that, hey, you know, there's an innate feeling or almost like guiding principle inside you that knows that you are, you know, powerful, and that you can be anyone or anything you put your mind to, and just trusting that, you know, even in the bad times, it's all there to serve a bigger purpose, right? It's preparing you for bigger challenges that are going to come your way. And it's almost like taking a moment to just like put your hands down, breathe, and say, okay, how are we going to tackle this today? Because it's like problem after problem after problem. So you just go, okay, take a moment, take a step back, analyze, and then go.
Yeah, I agree. And to be honest, we all should just take a step back, analyze, and go, just like you said. But in analyzing, I want us to travel back to 2017 and what people spent around Christmas time. I pulled up some statistics because it's going to lead me to my next point. Okay. So shoppers in the U.S. racked up an average of $1,054 of debt that Christmas season in 2017. Again, we're in 2018, so I don't have stats for that. And there was an increase of 5% over the last 5 years. I'm sorry, it was an increase of 5% over last year, according to a survey from Magnify Money. So, Magnify Money found that 44% of shoppers racked up more than $1,000 in holiday debt and accumulated 5% more than $5,000 in debt. Now, this is just all for one day, for some ripped up presents, for some paper that's going to go in the trash, for some boxes filled with goodies to show love. But in all honesty, we should not be going into debt over a holiday. If you don't get anything else out of this message, your 2019 Christmas should not have any debt tied to it, because, again, we're about to drop some knowledge. Again, there were shoppers that spent $1,054 and paid a minimum payment of $25 each month. So that means to tell me they spent $1,000, but they could only afford $25. So, Samantha, if we were to do some kind of math, how long would that even take for you to pay off $1,054 and you just putting $25 on a minimum payment? Like,
Yeah,
that would take almost 3 years more. How long would that take?
well, depending on the interest rate, right? And then so credit card interest, it's one of the highest interest rates. So if you're doing only the minimum payment, it could take you, yeah, you're right, like roughly I would say closer to 4 years, because now you're factoring in the interest rates.
Right. So, you know, and we're going into another portion where it's just like, it's tax season. Well, everybody wants to get a refund.
Mm-hmm.
I have never seen, like, a refund actually says that you paid the government too much money. And yes, you're getting a refund, but it was already your money.
Yeah.
It's not some free gift.
You basically lend the government free money.
Yes. So, Samantha, let's start there. Understanding that we just went in debt. Like, this is the scenario, you guys. Jasmine, she went Christmas shopping. I got $1,000. $1,054. I spent all of that for just Christmas. I can only afford $25 every month. So right now it's only going to take me 4 years, maybe at the least, to pay off this credit card. But I'm waiting for my tax refund in January. So can you please tell me why a tax refund just doesn't make any logical sense, especially if you do have a financial planner and you are able to see what you're supposed to do with your finances?
Yeah. So number one, I cringe when people say, oh, I'm waiting for my refund to pay off my credit cards. And it's like, why? Like, don't you want to do something with that money? Like something more fun? And so as far as a refund goes, yes, sometimes we ask our employers to withhold a little bit more taxes, right? Because at the end of the day, no one wants to pay taxes. So people rather receive money instead of pay money. So I understand that, you know, and sometimes that is a little bit harder to manipulate. But as far as receiving a refund, you don't want that money to go to debt. You know, it's like if you're going to be receiving a large sum of money, why don't you put that towards goals? Right. So a lot of people, you know, they want to maybe take a trip, or maybe they want to start investing, or they want to do different things like that. Why don't we have a plan as to, okay, we're going to be receiving a couple of $1,000s. Let's utilize that money and tackle things that we want to do. Right?
Yeah. And I know we often talked about like what's the motivation for money, right? Because you often hear, I've even heard they say, Jasmine, like, what's your goal? For me, of course, I want to make a lot of money so that I can invest it in my community. But I already have like the things that I would like to do as tangible goals, right? But money has a lot of stimulations. It can make you do some crazy things. But I know we were talking about some of the common motivations for money. Now I'll just let you, just tell us what have you seen as the common motivations for money?
So common motivations, I would say we as humans are driven by emotions, right? So two common of those emotions are greed, right? We see someone making money, or we see someone, their investment portfolio is doing really well, or they're able to generate high returns. So greed, right? We want something that someone else has. And the other motivator is fear, right? So we live in a very fear-based society. If you turn on the news, everything's always crashing and burning. So, we start to lose money, so we get scared and we withdraw. Or, we don't have the right type of guidance when it comes to certain investments, and we're not aware of maybe some of the decisions that we're doing, but because we're so scared of losing, that we pull out too soon, right? Same thing with debt. We're so scared that we may not ever pay this money back, that every dollar that does come in the door, we want to put it towards debt. So I think those are the two biggest driving forces for money, when really we should be thinking of money as like an exchange of energy, right? So how you spend your money really should be translated. How you spend your energy. So do you want to spend it on something that's invigorating, exciting, like that puts fire under you, and like it gets you pumped about what's to come next? Like, for example, I see you're constantly investing in your business, in your podcast, ordering t-shirts, like that type of stuff. Or do you want to be spending it in something that's a little bit more depleting of energy, right? So like going out to eat, bars, food, and not to say that that's bad, but it's we have to put things on like a balance and figure out, okay, what's more important? This vacation that's going to give us priceless memories and tons of trips and stories to talk about with family or friends, or do we want to just go drown our sorrows at the bars and call it a night?
Right. And all the drinks at the bar, by the way, are overpriced.
Yes.
In Manhattan, I spent a minimum of $12 for a margarita or just something small. In Texas, it'll probably be like, 7 to 10.
San Diego is like 16.
Right. And it's just like, you don't get that money back. I'm not saying to go be an alcoholic. That's not what I'm preaching on the show. But I'm saying, like, you would be better off just going to get a bottle and sharing it with some people. And, like, that would be cheaper. Again, I'm not telling people to go and be alcoholics. That is not the message. I'm just trying to put into context a small way to save some money there. But you did talk about vacations. I have been seeing a meme that I completely disagree. So, Samantha, I would love to hear your thoughts. Don't care about your money. Don't care. Money will come. Vacations and time won't. And I'm just like, I think that's the correct meme. Basically, it's telling you, don't worry about if you have enough money. Just take vacations because you can't get your time back. I completely disagree. I think it's one of the most stupidest things that I've seen on Instagram to date. Because why on earth would you go and create a memory that's going to cause you more debt? I would have a memory when I can't pay my bills because of the pictures that I'm just posting on Instagram. So, Samantha, you tell me your thoughts. We can completely disagree or we could agree. I don't know. But how do you feel about that?
I think that's like with anything. Like, I truly believe there's no good or bad, right? Those two things don't exist. It's like everything, it's always like it depends, or in what scenario, in what context, right? So I think that meme should have like an asterisk, right? Make sure that you're being a responsible adult, like almost like those like drinking commercials, like don't drink while drive. I feel like it should be very similar to that. I think where the meme is going to is like, don't spend your entire life working without enjoying the time that you have, your youth, right? Because the one thing we can never get back is time, right? That's the one resource that is not renewable. Whereas like money is something that's renewable. Like you can constantly make more money, but I do agree that you should not go in debt to take a trip, or like not go and just blow off all of your responsibilities and not pay for your student loans or this thing or that thing to go on a trip, right? I think it should be like an asterisk and say, okay, you know, maybe this is what we need to actually say. It's like, instead of going out every single weekend, right, and spending $100 at the bars, or $100 going out to eat, or $100 and going shopping, why don't you take those $100, put it in a savings account, and then in a year you'll have $1,200 to go take a trip, right?
I like that. Yeah, I like that. I do. For me, I would like to, my goals for anybody listening, if y'all invited me somewhere, I'm not coming. The reason why I'm not coming, because when I go somewhere, I need to have direct deposits. While I'm in the ocean, I need to come back to my phone and see a direct deposit. That's my goal. I will be able to sleep peacefully at night knowing I have daily direct deposits versus bi-weekly. But again, everyone's different. Everyone has different goals. That's why you call Samantha, because she can tailor your goals and things to what you want to achieve. I'm just different. But I also want to talk about people coming out of college.
Ooh.
They have so many student loans. Like for myself, I came out of college, transparency moment. I went to college out of state, so I had out of state fees. My mom couldn't afford to put me through college for free. I had to get student loans to pay for my housing, to pay for different classes, like just basic things. So I want to leave in college with $55K in debt.
Okay.
Right now, I'm at about 30.
Wow.
So I've been actively paying this stuff off. Like, I'm not playing any games with it. But again, just like myself and many others, our generation is drowning in student loan debt, and not everyone has the means to pay aggressively or to pay it all, right? They're just like, oh, please defer. So let's talk about deferring loans, what that does, you know, out of college, having loans, just the amount of pressure that we put on ourselves to get out of the student loan debt super fast because of what we've seen. Like, just talk to us through this whole student debt process.
Right. So I think the student loan conversation is probably one of the most controversial. Again, debt is emotional, right? It's a huge burden on our shoulders as we're walking out, and the first thing we all want to do is pay it off. So going back to that concept of time, right? The one thing we can never get back is time. And when you're looking at savings and investment and investing, and you have this concept of compounding interest, right? Money that's growing and doubling on its own. We want to be very strategic about how much money we're putting towards our debts and how much money we're actually putting towards our future. And it really comes down to like a simple mathematical equation. And I think, again, there's not one plan fits all, because we would really want to evaluate is, one, what type of debt do you have, right? Is it federal loans? Is it private loans? Number two, is it, are your parents co-signers on that loan? Did you have a friend or a sibling or someone that cares about you help sign off on those loans, right? Because now it's also their name that's on the hook. And then the other thing is figuring out what's the most strategic way of paying this back, right? So usually when you graduate, you get put on a standard repayment plan that's scheduled to pay off the loans in about 10 years. Which, if you can do so, right, if you have the cash flow, it's a small enough loan that you can do so. I would say, great, pay it off in 10 years. But for individuals who are coming out of college and they live in like expensive cities like San Diego, Los Angeles, New York, like where the cost of living is a lot higher, you may be able to pay off your loan, but now you're shrinking your discretional cash flow. So what we want to do is figure out a way to minimize the minimum payment. So we do that by extending the loan maybe from a 10-year to a 20-year or a 25-year. And now it reduces our monthly obligation. Okay, not to say that we're gonna just only pay that minimum payment, but at least those first years while you're still getting your bearings, right? We're just newly graduated from college, and usually most of us, again, those good and bad things that happen. Your old car breaks down, so you need to get a new car. You need to move into an apartment. You need to buy furniture. All the stuff that gets thrown on us because now we're quote unquote adults. We don't want to just have and throw all our money towards debt that's not necessarily bad debt, right? Because when you go and ask for a loan for either a mortgage or maybe a car, your student loans don't really get factored in. They're the type of what we call good debt. So it just really comes down to figuring out, okay, what is our interest rate? What type of loan it is, and what makes sense that's going to help us pay it down, but also allow us to save money and invest. Now, the other thing too that I always bring up is that when you're fresh out of college, you're probably you're probably going to be making the least amount of money you will over the course of your lifetime. Okay, so just think about that for a second. We all went to college for the potential of higher paying jobs. So when you're fresh out of college, you're an entry-level job. Let's just say you're making, I don't know, anywhere from, depending on where you are in the States, right, $50,000 to $100,000. Well, in 5 years, if you're doing things the right way, if you're progressing in your career, you could be making 15, 20% more, if not, 30%. So who's to say that in 5 years, okay, we can't take those pay increases, and put all those dollars to your loans and pay them off with one big check, right? So it's just giving us a little bit more breathing room and flexibility while we're still fresh out of college.
Yeah, it makes sense. So just like, hey, making sure you pay it down in lump sums. Don't just pay it down. I mean, of course, having the minimum payment,
right,
but more so paying it down with huge lump sums.
Right. As your income goes up, make bigger payments. But I think as you walk out of college with all the other things that you have to do, it's just about, I think the biggest thing is just be aware of what your situation is, right? Because everyone's completely different. And with that information, you can make the decision is, okay, do I want a 10-year plan? Do I want a 20-year plan? I would say don't just settle for whatever they give you, because oftentimes that's what we find. It's like, oh, I have such a high student loan payment. And it's like, well, let's look at it. And it's a $60,000 loan on a 10-year repayment plan. So now you're looking at a $600 a month payment, which most new grads don't want to do.
Or can't afford.
Exactly.
If we can be plainly put, can't afford. If you've only making $1,200, that means $600 is gonna go towards that, and then $600. Then you gotta eat, gotta have rent, gotta pay lights, you gotta pay gas, you gotta make sure that you can travel if you got a car. I mean, the list goes on and on with these expenses here. I now know why our parents were just like, don't wait to grow up. Like, stay a kid forever. I completely get it now. But just moving forward, another part that comes with being an adult is talking about investment retirement accounts like IRAs and 401ks. And could you just break that down for us? Because a lot of times you hear this mumbo jumbo as soon as you get out of school. You're like, what the heck? I didn't take a class on this. I have no idea why we don't get taught this in school. I don't know why, and it's so confusing to me, but it's things that we're expected to know the first day we get to go to our careers.
Yeah, no, and again, we're making decisions based on very limited information that we have. So we're all just trying to do our best at this thing called life. So yeah, I mean, as soon as you graduate, people are like, oh, you should open up a Roth IRA. You should invest in your 401k. What does all that stuff really mean? What are these letters? What are these numbers? Really, it just comes down to two things. Number one, savings, and number two, taxes. So I oftentimes have this conversation with a lot of my sophisticated clients, and it's not about how much money you make. It's how much money you get to keep. Right? So whether it's saved or whether it's not taxed or after tax, right? Because we can talk about rate of returns all day, but at the end of the day, when you factor taxes in, it's a whole nother conversation. So I would say for people who are graduating is get yourself familiar with how these different accounts work, right? What does it mean when it's pre-tax? What does it mean when it's post-tax? A lot of times people get told to start a Roth IRA. Well, nowadays, most employers offer a Roth 401k, and they act the same way. In fact, you could probably put more money into your Roth 401k than your traditional or than your Roth IRA. And so just because we're told to do something doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. So I would just say that is look into your employee benefits packet. Like, that's the number one thing we want to do with our clients is like, hey, send us a copy of that. We'll give you like a 1-page summary of what it is that you have and how to leverage those things as you move on in your career. So again, just going back to the idea of just educating yourself, right? Be a student of the game.
Yeah. Do you have any good books?
Oh,
What would you advise, right? I mean, as you're trying to finish college, what books should you be picking up? I know for myself, this is random, but I just Googled like Duke University and what they tell all their graduates to do. And they literally have PDFs, how to find an apartment.
Oh, wow.
What do you need to do? Like, for food, how much you should budget. I was like, these PWI schools are just laying it out for these graduates. Not that I have anything against PWI, but I know I'm a proud graduate of Prairie View A&M University. That's a historically Black college and university. So that's the only reason why I'm saying, like, wow, like it was just kind of all laid out in a PDF. You could just search it, like Duke University, things that you need to know after you graduate college. I was like, what the heck? And I read that. It made my move to New York it didn't make it easier, but
you had perspective.
I had perspective,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, I'm not the only person that's ever had to do this. Now, am I the only person in my family that's ever moved away this far? Heck yeah. Am I the only person that had to probably do a GoFundMe and just to live somewhere for an internship? No, but I figured out how to do it. That's the thing. You got to be crafty. You got to be creative. But if people believe in you, they'll support you. But just on another note, like, what should graduates be reading, be listening to? There are so many different podcasts and resources. The information is unlimited, so there's no excuse.
Yeah, you're 100% right. There's so much information out there. There's all the classics. There's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. A lot of people like Tony Robbins. There is also I'm blanking on the name of this. It's by someone that he interviewed, Carnegie. I'm blanking. But I would say a lot of books on budgeting. I think if you can master the art of cash flow, right? Because everything at the end of the day is just a big math equation, right? From how much money you make to how much money you spend to how much money you save. It's all, it's just math. And I think sometimes people don't think about it that way. And I think for people who are in higher tax bracket states like California and New York, one of the really good books is How to Be in the 0% Tax Bracket. That's an interesting one. That one's good. I'm pulling up my Audible list right now so I can tell you a couple other really good ones. The Defining Decade. Okay, so this one has nothing to do with money, but it is a really, really good book, and it talks about why your 20s is the most defining decade of your life. So you hear a lot nowadays that your 30s are the new 20s. Like, I don't know where that came about, but your 20s is essentially the most pivotal time in our lives, because if you could think of, I think the analogy that they use is if you can think of us as like, we're flying an airplane, okay, and we're in New York and we're trying to get to Seattle, okay, so Seattle is the final destination, and we're taking off, and we're flying across the country, but then we realize that our destination, we're actually headed towards San Diego or California, right? Well, if you realize that when you're just crossing over, Georgia, right, then it's a lot easier to make that pivotal change back towards and direct towards the Pacific Northwest. But if you realize that when you're like flying over Texas, you're like, oh wow, like this is going to be a big big turnaround back to Seattle. So that's kind of what your 20s are, is like how focused or how set up are you for the things that are to come later on in your life. And the book that I was going to refer to was The Power of Zero, How to Get to the 0% Tax Bracket. The other really good one is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That's my favorite one. I think if you are trying to start a business and you're trying to be an adult, it really talks about the difference between being independent, being codependent, independent, and interdependent. And I think that word sometimes gets forgotten. Interdependent. How do you become an independent person, but also be able to collaborate with other independent people? Really good. So yeah, those would be my favorite books.
Wow. I mean, I'm writing them down. Don't worry, you guys. I'll put them in the show notes as well. But I mean, this is some knowledge, right? But I want to put us in a case study.
Okay.
We all graduated. We have $50K that we make a year, right? Let's budget 2019 with that. We got our paper. It said, "Your congratulations. We're gonna pay you $50,000." How should we budget that 50K over the next 12 months?
Awesome. So number one is figure out what tax bracket you fall into. Okay. That would be probably first. So depending on your state, you might have to pay state taxes or not. And if you live in a state with no state taxes, then let's just pretend that, you fall into the 22 percent tax bracket. Okay. So that means that every dollar above $38,000 of income is going to get taxed at 22%. Okay. So right there off the bat, let's just say you're making about $39,000 a year. Okay. So that's going to be your take home. The other thing too we want to figure out is how much money are we saving into our retirement accounts. So it's usually based off a percentage, right? And in a perfect world, we should all be saving anywhere from 20 to 30% of our income, not just towards retirement, but in general. So figuring out what percentage of our income is being saved for us in these accounts that have been set up. And then from there, factoring in, okay, how much money do I want to save this year? Okay. And we'll come back to that in a second. So let's just say, after factoring in, on average, people save about 5% of their income into their 401k. So let's just say we do that. So we're taking home about $34,000 a year, and you divide that by 12. So that means you have about $2,800 coming in the door, or about $1,400 a paycheck. So first thing we want to do is take 10% of that and put that away so you can give back. And I know you and I had a conversation about this. So whether it's tithing or reinvesting into your community, I think being able to give is a huge, huge, huge thing, because it will come back to you tenfold. I'm a firm believer in that. And then from there, figuring out, okay, depending on where you live, you want to split the rest of that money into fixed expenses. So that means your rent, your car insurance, utility bills, cell phone bills, that stuff. I would say if you can limit your living expenses to about 50% of that. So, let's say you spend between rent and all that about $1,300. Okay, that should still leave you about another, $1,300 to save, and then to also have fun. So, if you do the math, depending on how much money you're able to save. So let's say out of those $1,300, you are able to save half of that. Okay, so you're saving $650 a month. So you want to multiply that by 12. Okay, that gives you your annual savings. So that's $7,800. And then divide that by your gross income, so that $50,000. So that means that's another 15% that's being saved, plus your 5% that you're putting into your 401k. So there you have, you're saving 20% of your income, and then you're also living within your means and still giving yourself about $650 to kind of play around with. So whether that's go out to eat, go buy yourself something nice, save for a trip, that kind of stuff.
I love that. And I just wanted to say for a second, when you go to college, you have $0. You're making zero. Like, you're either working work study, which could mean you're getting $200 to max $300 every 2 weeks. And you go from making $300 to $1,400 every 2 weeks, or $2,800 a month. I want us not to despise small beginnings. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm not making $100K once I get out of school. Oh, I'm not making this amount. Oh, I don't have any money. I'm still broke. Like, you just went from not making anything to making something.
Mm-hmm.
If God cannot trust you with something small, how can he trust you with something big?
Exactly.
So if you mess over $2,800 a month, why would he give you $28,000 a month? Why? Why would he give you that? You don't know what to do with $2,800 for 30 days. You must be a steward over your money. So again, let us not despise small beginnings. I hear so many people complain. You would think that people that are complaining, they don't have a job, they don't have money, they don't have anything. I'm like, goodness. Can we be thankful for what you do have? Some people don't have anything at all, but again, that's neither here or there. Or if you're going to complain, go change it. Don't complain to me. Don't complain to Samantha. Let's go fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So, my next question is, why is it so important to establish financial freedom?
Ooh, that's a really good question. And that's usually the question I ask all of my clients is, what does financial freedom mean to you or to them, or to what is financial freedom? So financial freedom, that's a very interesting topic because it means different things to different people. And our job is to understand what it means to our clients. So, for some people, it's financial freedom is being able to do all the things they want to do, whether it's, travel the world, be able to take up their parents on a trip, or be able to afford a house, or just do things. I think it really just comes down to having options and being able to make choices and not having regrets about it, right? Not having to think things twice before you buy something nice. Or that's, I think, what really financial freedom means. And it's like, how do we get there, right? So whether it's I know the big thing is having 7 streams of income. Well, people think that you need to have a bunch of businesses or real estate to be able to do that. But no, it could just be 7 different types of accounts that just perform differently, right? So then that way, no matter what's happening in the economy, you have choices. So I think that's what really freedom means, is being able to make decisions based on desires and passions and things that drive us, as opposed to fear and regret and guilt, which are not really cool feelings. So to get there, it takes a little bit of work, takes a little bit of sacrifice, but I truly believe that we are all capable of doing so. It just takes that discipline, right? Setting those goals, measurable goals, and tackling it little by little, right? We don't expect people to go from 0 to 60 overnight. It's like going to the gym. Savings is exactly like going and trying to back squat. You're not ever going to go in there and back squat 300 pounds your first day. 1, you'd probably break your back. 2, you'd probably never want to go back to the gym ever again. So the same thing with savings, right? Just start small. And then incrementally, you start to pack on those bigger plates until you're able to do the things that you want to do.
Yes, thank you, Samantha. I have another important question that I have to ask, because we are on the Walk by Faith show. Samantha, what does walking by faith mean to you?
To me, walking by faith means that, even though things may seem to not be going in your favor, there's problems and things like that, you are still able to wake up every single day and be grateful and just be happy to be where you're at, because you know that everything that's happening is happening for you and not to you, and it's only preparing you for what's to come. I'm a true believer that God does not put anything in your path that He doesn't think that you're not able to overcome. I like to think we have like 100% success rate, up to this point in time in our lives, and overcoming everything that's thrown at us. So walking by faith is truly believing in not only yourself, but in your purpose, and that you're being guided towards that.
Wow. Thank you so much, Samantha. And, it wouldn't be right if I don't end it with the scripture. And then, Samantha, you just tell the people where they can find you, where they can get more knowledge, where they can just learn more from you. Because, again, I want to create a community where my network is your network. Samantha is just as accessible on Instagram as I am. So I want you all to reach out to her with questions. If you want to follow up with her, if you want to work with her in the future, definitely want you to take that as an opportunity. But the scripture that I want for today, for this podcast, is a good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children. A good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children, but a sinner's wealth is stored up for the righteous. Proverbs 13:22. So basically, all that means is that it's our job to steward over our money well, so that we can leave our wealth for our children's children. So that's at least 3 generations. A lot of times there are things such as generational curses, where maybe my mom wasn't good with money, her mom wasn't good with money, her mom's mom wasn't good with money, and then you look and say, why is it that I make money but I can't keep it? What's wrong with my pockets? And then you just need to look in your lineage to say, hey, what did I learn? What habits did I learn? What was I taught at the dinner table? What am I not getting? What am I doing wrong? Because it's not something that's normal for us to make $2,800 a month. Again, going back to our scenario, and when you look over that year, we didn't accomplish not one savings goal. We didn't accomplish not one investment goal. We didn't accomplish making sure that we could invest and help and tithe properly. And in the first place, that sometimes we like to take our money back and say, oh, we're not going to give it. That should be the first place, right? So, out of $2,800, you already know $280 doesn't belong to you, which is $140 every 2 weeks. I am a true testament that by giving, you receive.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not something like you give to get, but your money will multiply when you give it to the person that gave it to you. But again, that's a message for another day. I just want you all to understand that you definitely have to take into account that our money is supposed to be here for our children's children.
I love that. Generational wealth.
Whatever that means, by any means necessary. That should be the motto. By any means necessary, whatever I do every single day, my children's children will be able to not only inherit what I have worked hard for, but they will be able to complete and accomplish their goals because I sacrificed, so my children's children, my babies and their babies will have money. If you were to really think about that and just see how beautiful that is, you will actually begin to save a little more. You'll think about your money just a little bit differently. Because you're like, wait, is this trip going to put my children's children behind? It's a good grounding message for you to just continuously think about somebody else other than yourself. Again, no one is saying that you can't have fun and you can't splurge, but you shouldn't be starting off 2019 with tons of debt. And especially if you were just like that recent scenario where you spent $1,000 on Christmas and now you're paying $25 a minimum. That's not okay. That's actually, I hope that if you're listening to this, you're only paying the minimum balance on your credit card, cut your credit card up. You're not ready for it. you're not ready. You're not there. You're not ready for a credit card, because if you the best way to have a credit card, and again, this is just what I'm saying. I know, Samantha, like, you can agree or disagree. Pay that credit card off. I mean, if you spending $100, pay the $100. Don't just be like, oh, I'm gonna put 10 on it. No, pay the $100. But again, Samantha, like, you do you agree with that concept? Because I CPA on the line, so I just want to make sure I'm telling y'all from a good standpoint that pay the whole 100. Yeah. Don't just pay $10.
Yeah, credit card is the bad debt. You know, we're looking at good and bad debt. Credit card is the bad debt that we definitely want to get rid of as quick as possible.
Yes. So, Samantha, where can everyone find you on social media, on your websites, on your businesses? Where can people find you to connect? Because again, everyone, my network is your network. Go and be Samantha's friend and talk to her and invest in yourself in whichever capacity that means.
Yeah, so you guys can find me on Instagram. It's at Sam, so it's spelled SSSAAAMM, so 3 S's, 3 A's, 2 M's. There's a link to my website on there as well. Feel free to shoot me a DM if you want to connect. So what's really interesting about our practice is that we run a non-fee based practice. So that means that we don't charge a fee for a consultation or time putting together the recommendations or the plan. So we get compensated in different ways. And I think the biggest message that we're trying to give to our clients is that, you know, the word, or there's a saying that in yoga, or just in general, I think that the teacher appears when the student is ready. So we want to be able to provide the information and knowledge to everyone and let them make the decision whether it's the right time to actually take those steps and really bring and get their finances in order and develop that plan and continuously work with us to help achieve their goals and dreams and aspirations.
Yeah, thank you so much, Samantha, just for your time, for telling us that we didn't do Christmas right, you know, and also just helping us to get our financial goals in order for 2019. Again, by the time you all hear this next episode, New Year's would have happened. So happy New Year's from the Walk by Faith family, from me, the Pretty Plug. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's. And we'll see you next week for another episode on the Walk by Faith show. Peace out. If you want more content like this, make sure you give the Walk by Faith podcast a 5-star rating and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. You can follow me on Instagram at __ the Pretty Plug, and follow all updates on the podcast at WBF Podcasts. To those already supporting the show with a monthly subscription, thank you. If you're not already a supporter and you'd like to help make this show possible, tap the link in this episode's description or visit anchor.fm/jasmine-a-stith to become a monthly supporter. That's all, folks. Tune in next week for another episode on the Walk by Faith show.